بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى أما بعد. Respected brothers and everyone listening, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the world He has created many things. And the vast majority of these things, they are for the use and for the benefit of mankind. However, if we look at most things, they will have a beneficial use and also a harmful use. It all depends on the person, on the individual, how you utilize that resource. Someone could utilize the same thing in a manner which is halal, permissible, good, ethical, moral. Another person can utilize that same thing, same resource. However, he or she utilizes it in a manner which is impermissible, wrong, immoral, unethical, etc. So it's the same thing, but one person benefits from it. Another person, rather than benefiting, they actually gain more harm because they fail to use that resource correctly. And just to give you a few examples, let's just take the example of money. Money, it's there for a purpose. It's there to fulfill our needs. A person goes to work, earns a living. You bring that money home, that wage home. It pays the bills. It keeps a roof over your head, etc., etc. Another person also goes to work, he brings the money home, but he utilizes that money in wrong things. He indulges in those acts which are haram, impermissible, using that money. So can you see, one person uses that money for a useful purpose, a beneficial purpose. Another person uses that same money but for a wrong purpose, immoral purpose, haram purpose. Let's just take the example of a smartphone. You can use it for communication. You can use it to keep your life in order, because nowadays on the smartphone you have everything. Electronic diary, contacts, address book, etc., etc. So you use it just like maybe you might use a car. It's there for a specific purpose and function. Somebody else, he also has got a smartphone, but rather than utilizing it for your daily routine, for your day-to-day life, etc., he is using it for immoral, wrong purposes. For example, nowadays from the palm of your hand you can access, for example, pornography. Doesn't take long. You don't have to sit in a room in front of a large screen. You can now do it from the palm of your hand, and you can do it from anywhere. You can do it from your car. You can do it while you're walking. You can do it from any location. So the smartphone, it has a use which could be beneficial, which could be harmful. So this is a rule you will see in everything almost. Moving on, and which is the objective of my talk today, let's take the example of social media. Social media has become an extremely powerful tool in today's world. Do not underestimate the power of social media. And again, The same applies to social media. You can either have a beneficial use or you can have a wrong, immoral, unethical, haram use. So, let's look at the benefits of social media. You can use it to connect with people. You might have family back home. Before 25, 30 years ago, very few people had telephones in their houses. And if you wanted to contact your loved ones back home, whether it's India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, etc., you would have to send them a telegram. It was the era of telegrams. And if you wanted to ring, you'd have to go to a phone box and make the call through the operator. You'd have to connect through an operator. Nowadays, from the palm of your hand, you can connect to your loved ones. Alhamdulillah. So, if your intention is silatul rahim, which has been mentioned in the ahadith again and again and again, silatul rahim means enjoining relations, keeping good relations with your family, with your relatives. It's a great deed, great reward. If your niyyah is that, you will also get rewarded as well. Al-a'malu bin niyyat. So you can connect with friends and family. Through social media, you can learn about what's happening in the world. So you can receive information in the palm of your hand. You can use it for business. So many businesses, they operate on social media today. So you can use social media as a means of earning a living. On the other hand, through social media, you can do so much wrong as well. For example, you receive a message on WhatsApp without even verifying it, whether it's true, false, fake news, you forward it on to 20 others. You don't even bother to check whether that information is correct, incorrect, especially if it concerns an individual. That am I involving myself in wrong, in sin, that I've received a rumor about someone. The rumor sounds very good. Let me forward it on to my friends. So we don't even bother checking. And we end up slandering someone. And we end up affecting and harming and attacking the honor of possibly another Muslim brother or sister, which again is a big sin in our deen. So social media, it has its benefits, it has its harms. Some people, they get so hooked to social media, looking at other people's timelines, stories, personal lives, etc., that 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours could be wasted. Just like that. And you don't even realize. You don't even realize that I have wasted several hours. I've achieved nothing. I've achieved nothing. All I have done is flicking through this profile, that profile, this timeline. What is that person doing? Something pops up, I immediately click it. And before you know it, you've wasted so many hours of your time. Allah save us from this. Allah save us from this. My message today is that those of you who are active on social media, active means that you use it. It could be WhatsApp, it could be Twitter, it could be Facebook, it could be Instagram. There's so many different platforms nowadays. What we need to do is, put our social media use to good use, to beneficial use. A use which helps us, which helps the ummah, which helps the community. I'll give you an example. 15, 20 years ago, when there was no social media, when even smartphones, 25 years ago, smartphones were, forget smartphones, there were no smartphones. They were just normal, those Nokia bricks. Smartphones is a very recent thing, 15 years maybe maximum. So at that time, when we did not have smartphones, we did not have social media, we did not have so many things in the palm of our hand, the narrative of world events controlled by who? By the media. Whether it's the BBC, whether it's the CNN, whether it's Fox News in America, whether it's the tabloid newspapers, whether it's the Murdoch media. The narrative was controlled by the media. If something was happening in Kashmir, you would only learn what is happening there through the media. And the media would portray its own narrative, whether that was biased or not, etc. Nowadays, the tables have turned. Social media, we should rename it as people media. The narrative nowadays is in the control of the people. If you look at the recent events of Gaza and Palestine, Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa and Jerusalem, especially in the last few days of Ramadan, some of the tabloid newspapers did not even bother reporting it on their front page because they knew we've lost this. We can't report in the same way we used to report 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Why? Because people know what is happening there. We are receiving real-time news information directly from these places where atrocities are happening. So where do we fit in now? What is my message? Where do we fit in? We fit in. We need to make our use of social media effective. If atrocities are happening, then we need to make sure the correct narrative is going out. So for example, if you are on Twitter, on Facebook, on other platforms, and somebody misrepresents what is going on, then you should take out 30 seconds of your time and make a comment. Make a comment. And if somebody has posted something which is correct, which is the truth, which highlights the suffering of the ummah, then share that, like that, forward it on to other people, so more and more people learn about the truth. So my point is, put social media to good use. The narrative nowadays is in the control and in the hands of the people. The narrative is no longer in the control and in the hands of a select few, like it was 15, 20 years ago, where only certain media outlets would be controlling the narrative. So basically, we really have no room to complain. We have no room to complain that the news is biased. The news is like this. Let the news carry on. Let the news networks carry on with what they are doing. We, the people, the ummah, the Muslim community, must put social media to good use by spreading what is correct, by spreading factual information, by highlighting atrocities, etc. I'll give you an example of a narrative before I finish. That if we look at the current narrative regarding the events in Palestine, in Gaza, etc., if you switch on the BBC, CNN, any news interview, article on this issue, normally what they highlight is, the first thing they highlight is that Hamas is firing rockets into Israel. That's what you hear. And that seems to be the justification for everything. That's the narrative. If you went now on BBC to give an interview, straight away they would try to corner you by saying Hamas is firing rockets into Israel. Israel has a right to defend itself. But what you need to highlight is Hamas is a symptom of your occupation. If today somebody came to your house, kicked you out, and your wife, and your family, and your young children, you're going to go to the police for help. If the police fail to do anything, any person with some self-respect, what they're going to do? They're going to come back and try to retake their house, whether they have to use force. Whether they have to use force. People have been killed in their thousands. People in their thousands have been made homeless. 6 million refugees since 1948. 6 million. That's almost the population of Scotland. So this is a reaction to all that. This is a reaction. So we need to be able to manage and control the narrative. That's my point. That usually the narrative is controlled by the media. We need to, on social media, highlight the correct narrative. And this will only happen, A, if we appreciate the power of social media. B, we appreciate that as a Muslim, it's my responsibility. C, we learn about what is happening. We learn the history. We educate ourselves. We take time out to learn the true narrative, facts, etc. This is not every person's cup of tea. That basically they go on social media and they try to help Muslim causes. They try to help the ummah which could be suffering in Yemen, in Kashmir, in Palestine, in China, etc. You know, if you look at Israeli social media, Chinese social media, there is so much misinformation. So much misinformation. People are actually paid to churn out misinformation. People are actually paid, especially in countries like Russia and China. So as a person from this ummah, we should put our social media use to good use. That's my message today. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to act upon what has been said. And just to conclude, if the intention is correct, that I am doing it not for fame, not because I get more followers on my social media platforms, no. I am doing it solely to highlight the suffering of the ummah. I am doing it because I care about the ummah. I am doing it because others are not doing it. Others are not highlighting these atrocities. If your intention is correct, you will be rewarded. Al-a'malu bin niyat. You will be rewarded for this as well. Jazakallah wa salamu alaykum.